The Chicago Bulls are making a major DeMar DeRozan contract decision, and also there's a trade update with Zach Lavine, and we are going to break all this down. So what's up, guys? Welcome back to Bulls Digest. It's Chris here, and we're going to jump into this video because the Chicago Bulls, recently it came out about them that they are still looking to compete next season and are aiming to re-sign DeMar DeRozan per Mike Scotto. And in quotes, the belief around the league is that DeMar DeRozan will ultimately re-sign with the Bulls, given the team's continued desire to compete, his role, and Chicago's willingness to pay him. Now, I'll say one thing. There are teams out there that have money. There are sign-and trades that can happen. If DeMar DeRozan wanted to leave the Bulls so he could go off and try to win a championship, he would do that. DeMar DeRozan, however, has indicated that he wants to stay with the Bulls, that he has no intentions of leaving the team anytime soon, and that he wants to re-sign with them. And I'll be honest, I think a bigger reason for this is DeRozan's looking at the money. He's looking at the fact that he could still be a number one option for the Bulls here. And he's decided, you know what? I want to stay doing this. And that is very fair reasoning at 35 years old to not want to uproot your life once again after getting moved out of Toronto, spending 3 years in Texas before coming to Chicago. It's one of those things where he's getting to the age where he's like, you know what? I don't want to leave. I don't want to move again, move my family, do all that stuff. I don't think DeMar wants to do that. I think he likes his situation in Chicago clearly enough that he wants to stay. But on the topic of winning, he has talked about this before. Here's what he said. After talking to Casey Johnson from NBC Sports Chicago, he said he wants to sign an extension, quoting, "This is where I want to be. I love ownership. I love everything about the city and the franchise top to bottom, the front office, the staff we have. It's one of those places that gives me motivation to see everybody get what they deserve and feel what winning is like again." I mean, massive shout out to DeMar DeRozan from running right up the chimney and not ducking any smoke. Also, shout out to DeRozan for saying that he loves the ownership because no one loves Reinsdorf. So that's very interesting that he would go out there and say that. But basically what DeRozan is saying is, I want this max deal, and I would rather try to win in Chicago and fail than to try and win somewhere else outside of Chicago and succeed. That is very, very awesome to hear. Those are the type of players that other players want to play with. And if you look at things that way, maybe the Bulls truly believe that they could use their draft capital, they can use that contract of Zach Lavine, and try to make something happen where maybe they can put together a winner if Lonzo Ball can come back and everything can work out. I don't think they're going to give up on trying to do this. We all know that Reinsdorf has said time and time again that there's just not going to be tanking. It's not going to happen. The Bulls don't do that. So if you want them to, tough luck. It's not going to happen. As much as it absolutely should, and anyone who has watched this team at all, or has even vaguely watched or paid attention to the NBA over the last 2 years, would know. But if DeRozan wants to stick around, it definitely is awesome. I mean, I'm not too concerned with DeRozan just walking in free agency, because even if he does, that could be a secret blessing. However, I think the best option for DeMar DeRozan or for the Chicago Bulls, like the best option for me would have been to shut my window so it didn't sound like there was like a 5-alarm fire going down right below my apartment or something. But the best decision for the Bulls and DeRozan would be to re-sign him to like a 2-year, $80 million deal, giving him $40 per year till he's 37, or going into his age 37 season till he's 36 years old. And maybe put a team option on it or slap a player option on it, depending where DeRozan's head at and what other teams are offering him if you want to ensure you re-sign him. And then you just look to trade him at the deadline. I mean, is it the coolest thing to do to DeMar? No, but basketball's a business, and the Chicago Bulls, they're low on options. There's not many. I don't really know where to go from here. I don't think there's too much that they can realistically do. That all being said, I don't think that's going to happen. I think DeMar DeRozan is going to spend at least the foreseeable future with the Chicago Bulls. And maybe eventually he'll leave. Maybe he'll go back to Toronto. Maybe he'll do something like that. Maybe he'll go to LA, to either one of the teams. It's unclear what's going to happen with DeMar DeRozan in the future, and it's really hard to gauge. But I can say in all certainty that the Bulls will be one of the worst teams in the NBA if they don't have him, especially because Zach Lavine, who has just had a turmoil-filled Chicago Bulls career, seemingly could be on the outs once and for all, as also they mentioned Andre Drummond will probably leave, but we all know that. As for a Lavine trade, it could take a desperate team that is underachieved in the playoffs or a team like the Pistons looking to do anything to move the needle in a positive direction with pressure on management for more wins to trade for Zach Lavine. Now, I think the Detroit Pistons are the perfect team to trade for Zach Lavine for a few reasons. One, they have cap space. You think they're getting 2 max players? First of all, there's not 2 guys to give max contracts to in this free agency class. I mean, unless the Pistons are like, you know what, here's the move. Let's give Paul George and Klay Thompson each max contracts. What your other options? Who? LeBron? Maybe Emmanuel Quickley, who actually would make sense on your team or something like that. But, like, it's not like free agency's what it used to be in 2016 and 2015, where it was the biggest thing. The NBA has moved in the direction of the NFL, where free agency's not as big of a thing for the best players. And now, if a best player moves teams, he's almost certainly getting moved via trade. With that in mind, the Detroit Pistons need to do something. They had the worst record in the NBA, and what did that get them? Draft lottery tragedy. They are picking 5th overall in the draft, as we probably all saw. And I mean, you know, rooting for the Bulls in all means, there's an inherent hatred for the Detroit Pistons, so it's real funny to make fun of them for it. Because now 2 years in a row, they have gotten the worst record in the league and are picking 5th. Ouch. So yeah, the Pistons need to do something. And I think they are the team to trade for Zach Lavine. They need shooting. They need someone who could hit a 3. They need someone who could score the ball from the perimeter. And Lavine's your guy. I mean, take that low risk on him. And I think there's a good trade out there. I think if the Pistons accept the team options of Jaden Ivey and Evan Fournier, which they'll obviously do for Ivey and Fournier, the jury's out, depending on if they want to move him in a trade like this, then the Chicago Bulls can get back a young piece for a guy in Lavine who seemingly has no trade value anyway and possibly even negative trade value. And all it's going to cost to get him is getting rid of Lavine once and for all and also trading a 2029 second-round pick. I think this is a very realistic trade. Now, I know a lot of people in the comments are going to be like, no, we should get more for Lavine. Well, here's the deal. Tough luck. Lavine's not worth anything. There's no team in the NBA that's going to overpay for Zach Lavine. No one wants him. I'm sorry, but no one wants him. The only other team that could possibly go for him is a team that would desperately need scoring, and that's what the Spurs, who have the assets to do something way better than get Zach Lavine. Like, let's just be real with ourselves. It's not like he's the most coveted player in the NBA or anything. When you look at his stats last year, he played 25 games, had another season-ending injury, only averaged 19.5 points with 5 rebounds, didn't shoot the ball very well. His PER was league average, and that was kind of shocking if you saw Lavine play this season. He's now a bit removed from being an all-star, despite only being 30. And if you look at Lavine, I don't think there's any market at all for him. So the Pistons, they have a ton of money. They could eat some of that salary while also not eating all of it because they'll accept Fournier's team option, which just gives them a little more wiggle room for stuff. So they're not just purely eating money, and they're also doing something with Evan Fournier, which would be sick for them. And also, then the Bulls get Jaden Ivey. They get a guard who could also play forward. And I know it doesn't solve the logjam at guard. I know there's still a lot of guards, and Ivey's shooting makes things worrisome. But at the end of the day, at some point, Caruso is going to get moved. Ivey's a good defender in theory. Like, it's something. And again, Lavine's worth nothing. So if you can get something for something that's worth nothing, you do it. I think this is the move for the Bulls. Now, I'm not saying this is exactly what the trade is going to be, but if we're realistic with ourselves, that's what you're getting for Zach Lavine. Guys, comment your thoughts down below on all this. Should the Bulls even bring back DeRozan or just force the rebuild through not bringing him back? Do they make this Zach Lavine trade? I want to see your Zach Lavine trades in the comments down below. I threw a realistic one at you. If you didn't like it, tough luck. That's probably the best they can do. Guys, leave it in the comments. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Subscribe to Bulls Digest. Like this video. Peace.